who is the Chief Marketing Officer at ICO. She's going to talk about collection from obviously the ICO experience, but really this is not a pitch for all of these guys. They're taking off their organizational hats and just speaking from a place of experience and thought leadership and expertise. So thanks Jennifer.
Sure, thanks Amy. And again, thanks to the Coalition for inviting me here today to talk really about an important part of the end of each puzzle, and that is the collection and processing. And I'm sorry, it's not going to be as sexy as Lewis's discussion on design. It's collection and processing. But I'm hoping in the next 15 minutes that I'll maybe challenge some of your thinking and maybe push you to think of possibilities you didn't think about before, and really give flight to some new ideas to really help us build an astonishing, happier, and healthier world. So I think I wanted to just touch base on what Amy had said earlier, because that's what this discussion is all about. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the keywords are reimagine, retool, and redirect. And I am going to couch my discussion around those three areas. I'm going to start with redirect. And redirecting is millions and billions of pounds of chemical materials from landfills to new uses. And I'm going to focus on the current status, because this is what we all have to tackle head on. Amy touched on it before, but I'm going to give you larger numbers. And before I even do that, I always want to urge everyone to ask what's next, and I think you said that earlier. And not what's next in the fashion world, what's next collection, next trend, but really, and you're doing all that brilliantly, but what is next for what you've already created? There's a legacy there, and you have to think what's next now, and we're there to help. So I'm going to quickly go through the magnitude of this worldwide challenge. As we all know, we are part of over 7 billion people on this earth, and each year we discard over 114 billion pounds of apparel and footwear. And since we're in the town of the 49ers, I decided to try to figure out what that would mean for Candlestick Park. So if you packed every corner of Candlestick Park with unwanted apparel and footwear, and then filling it again, not 20 times, not 30 times, but 59 times, that would give you the volume that's out there. And it's just astonishing. And actually, it's continuing to rise. And drill down a little, sorry, missed my picture. And drilling down a little further, of that 114 billion, 20% is collected globally, and that is through private companies, charities, and communities. And sometimes it really surprises people. And it's actually very conservative. Amy, you pointed out that in the United States it's 15% that's being collected. In Germany and Denmark it's at 50%, but then in Africa it's minimal. So it's really across the board, but 20% is what we think conservatively, and that means 80% is going to waste, which is 91 billion pounds. And this is frustrating because almost everything can have a further use, from plain clothes, to fancy clothes, to worn out shoes, to better seen denim, but my son would debate that because those are his jeans and he won't let me get rid of them. And because I'm in the sorting and grading facility a lot, some things are incredibly outrageous. And with 4th of July around the corner and a lot of golfers out there, and we just found those in the sorting and grading facility, and I just had to take a picture. And surprisingly so, a couple of the MC Hammer pants have been coming through. I don't know what's going on there. And then costumes are always pretty wacky, and that is not me and my husband. Somebody asked me that. So, all joking aside though, all these items definitely, as well as the 80% I told you about going to landfill, can and should be collected, because we must value their creation by preserving the energy that was put into them, the material costs that put into them, and the labor. It's just extremely critical. And when we look at that 20% that's collected, because it's always very interesting, it's important to know what happens to those items. So they arrive at a sorting grading facility, and it's anywhere around the world, and approximately 60% goes to the viewer market, which is sold in the secondhand markets around the world. And approximately 40% is initially going to our waste stream. But some of that is being recycled. Worldwide, about 10% of textiles and footwear are being recycled. At our parent company, Solex Group, we are recycling 35%. And that's about 35% of 1,000 metric tons we process every day around the world. And what that means is, if it's an unwearable t-shirt or a pair of jeans or a sweater, it's made into a raw material. And that's what this is. We turn it into fiber. And that fiber then is created into insulation, which many of you have seen. This is then insulation, or mattress padding, or carpet padding. So this is t-shirts and sweaters made into this product. And it's straight. And there's also on the footwear side, and Nike has brought this in terms of Nike Grind, but athletic shoes and flip-flops can be shredded down to the pellets and then turned into sport cord, playground cord, running track. And just to show you a complete wacky thought, when we shred everything at our shredding facilities, just think about the fuzz that goes in the air. When we suck that out, and now we're creating denim bricks, and we're using this in the paper industry. So we're going the nth degree to try and not have waste in our facilities. And if you look at that number then, okay, some people say it's bringing down to 5% waste because we altered it to go into recycling. But to be honest, we don't look at it that way. Because if you step further back and really look at the situation, 60% of that, when it's not usable anymore, goes to waste. And what we call recycling, is really downcycling. And downcycling goes right to waste too. Because that insulation that's in these walls, when this building gets torn down, that turns into waste. It has not been designed for reuse. So we're proud of what we're doing with the 35%, but then at the same time we're not, because we're really not helping the waste stream. Sorry, I don't know all these builds I've been given. Pretty fancy. So everything becomes to waste. And everything in the collection and processing history is trying to be less bad. And Lewis said this earlier, you've heard this term before. But what we're doing is really being less bad. And that's not being good. And so what we all have to think about is what is the creating solutions that are truly good, and that we eliminate this whole concept of waste. So in terms of redirecting, it's our belief that for a sustainable future, everything produced or used must be brought back into a never-ending cycle. And importantly, by using a proven, comprehensive global collection system and logistics system, that everywhere something is sold, it needs to be collected as well, in every corner of this world. And we believe that everyone must take their own product responsibility and their duty of care to realize that apparel and footwear close-up solutions can lead us to no waste and can create a sustainable future. And that's what we're all about, and how we're continue to. We've been, parent company's been doing this for 40 years, and we're not going anywhere because there's such an issue. But what is great is the timing is right, and this is, I'm going to turn to the tool part of the objective. The timing is right because consumers, customers, want to consume intelligently and do good for the planet. If you read anything on the phone communications gap tracker, but it supports the stat because at a stat that a record high 71% of Americans consider the environment when they shop, which is up from 66% in 2008. And even more interesting is that nearly all respondents, 85%, want companies to educate and help them on how to properly use and dispose of product. People still don't know how to use and dispose of product, and they're asking for retailers and others' help to tell them what to do. And just as importantly, companies such as yourselves are really wanting to produce products that are good for the planet, which is not what had happened 10 years ago. So with all of that, we are on our way to saying bye-bye to our waste. And you may have heard this term too. We are becoming part of what is being called the next industrial revolution. And that is about initial production being the next production. And that's what Lewis had touched on as well. And in terms of production of new product, it's perfectly created products based on the cradle-cradle spirit. But it's critical that it's also a global collection network, plus information on what to do with that product. we can see all this product, but we don't know what to do with it. It's not telling us what to do with it. So I think the best approach for me to explain that a little further is to take you on a journey of how we define a successful closed loop process from what is happening now and moving forward into the circular economy. First part, obviously new products are created and sold in store. And as I said earlier, we believe in collecting everything everywhere and having product responsibility. So our next step is to collect at point of collection, to collect actually at retail. And we found that it's difficult to drive consumer behavior on this subject right now. It's not like bottles and cans and everyone knows what to do. So in order to drive change and get a lot of collection activity, we found it's very important to provide an instant reward for customers to bring in their items and be good for nature. Right now, we're experiencing this in 6,800 stores globally. About the end of this year, we'll be in 10,000 stores. And right now, the most powerful is the monetary value. People are testing out, tying into loyalty points, tying into premiums. But when you tie into it, it is increasing store traffic. It is increasing sales and customer loyalty. And here's a visual of some of again, Puma, a big proponent of this. Derek's in the room from Bolton, and he's collecting as well. But the key thing is it's got to be easy, convenient, and fun for the store. And positive change definitely can happen. The next phase, and a key partner of ours that's really seeing positive change is H&M. And I know Eric, he might be in there somewhere, and he's going to be on a panel discussion in a bit. But H&M launched their global long-lived fashion garment recycling with us in February. And they took a huge effort to launch globally in 2,900 stores across the world on the same day, which makes a huge statement about how they are letting fashion, they don't let fashion go to waste. But you'll hear more about that from Eric. The next part of the closed loop is logistics. Not very exciting, but the key thing here is it has to be collected and have reverse logistics that are has cost savings, so logistics can really hurt a program. And then it comes to sorting. And sorting, this is where the whole reimagine part happens. What is that next use? And everything is hand sorted and graded into over 400 criteria. And the interesting thing is there still isn't technology that does the same thing as the human eye and the touch to grade that. There's a lot being work done by it, but at this point it's all about hand and touch. And we sort until there's nothing left to sort. And this is where you've heard the word upcycle a lot. This is where the upcycle process can occur. And this is turning the t-shirt back into the t-shirt. And this is where we find the cradle-to-cradle product in recycled packaging. And because that upcycle is such an important part of our future, we've started investing in something that we're calling talking shoes and clothing. And that goes back to trying to find the information on what to do with this product when we get it. And so it's a tag system that tells us when it comes through the scanner, guess what? This has had its end of life, and it needs to be shredded into 1 inch squares and then sent to the producer in Taiwan, and it gets turned into the product. But if it's not talking to us, we don't know what to do with it. So it's a huge part of the process of moving forward with any type of end-use solution. And we're also investing a lot in shoe recycling. Shoe recycling is extremely difficult, and this summer we're moving into a lot of inroads to help keep that out of our landfills. So we are helping to close the loop, and Puma will be on the panel shortly too to tell you how they're really making a huge difference in terms of designing for reuse and the take-back program that they have going on for the upcycle product. The key thing going out of the loop is all products must be used in their original form for as long as possible. The best thing for this environment is to keep wearing them until it can't be worn any longer. So that is the whole we wear world. And a key thing here, and a lot of people say, okay, well then are we sending our clothing and shoes to underdeveloped countries and turning that into trash? We don't want that to happen. So we just launched ICO Kenya, and we're working with the government and charities and other retailers to create jobs and create recycling and collection in that country, and we're now moving into South America and also South Africa. And our goal is to cover the whole world to make sure everything's collected, so there is no trash happening anywhere. And quickly, the other part of the story is what happens when something is unwearable. It's either goes into reuse, turned into microcloth, it's turned into energy, and as we talked about, into downcycling. And the only way we can move away from the blue lines is to continue to work on upcycling, continue to work on industry collaborations. And as Louis had said before, if things can be turned into the biological cycle, that helps too. So that is our definition of closing the loop and how you can do that with collections and sorting and processing. And the key thing is making sure we find profit for everyone. And all the stakeholders, from retailers to manufacturers to customers to charities, community, and local government, all work together to create a healthier, more sustainable planet. So I kind of raced through that, but that's